Good evening. Tonight's story is not about the moment a marriage breaks. It is about the far more dangerous moment when love quietly leaves, but the performance of love remains. What began as silence, distance, and a husband learning to survive his own home would slowly become something far darker. Care without tenderness, loyalty without safety, and a betrayal delivered in the language of devotion. Before we begin, a brief disclosure. The voices in this story were created with AI assistance, but the writing, structure, and direction are human. What follows is a fictionalized narrative inspired by relationship drama shared online. Enjoy the story.
Let me tell you something nobody tells you about being a husband. It doesn't feel like failure all at once. It feels like Tuesday. Like another Tuesday where you get home at 7:14 p.m., put your keys on the hook, and hear the silence that tells you something is already wrong before you've even taken your shoes off. My name is Ethan. I'm 33. I work in mid-level project management for a logistics firm that nobody outside the city has ever heard of. You make good money, the kind of money that keeps a 2-bedroom apartment comfortable, covers 2 car payments, and still occasionally makes you feel like maybe, if you stretch it right, things will work out. For 5 years, that money has also paid for Alice. Alice stopped working about 2 years into our marriage. Burnout, she said. The job was toxic. The commute was destroying her. She needed time to reset. I said okay. She never went back, and I didn't push. Because I loved her. Because I told myself that a partnership means sometimes one person carries more than the other, and that the math would balance out eventually. Which brings me to the Saturday in February when Alice texted me a link. It was a handbag, Dior, dark navy. The kind of thing that has its own velvet box and its own zip code of provenance. $4,950. I stared at the screen for a while, long enough that the preview dimmed, lit it back up. Read the price again, put the phone face down on my desk. That evening I came home to the other version of Alice, the cold one. Did you see what I sent you? I saw it. And? I chose words carefully. Alice, that's nearly $5,000. I know what it costs. We can't. I mean, I'd have to move things around for a month at least. She set her fork down, not dramatically. Quietly, which was always worse. When Alice got loud, I could handle it. When Alice went quiet, the room changed temperature. You know what, she said. Other women's husbands don't make them feel like criminals for wanting one nice thing. I'm not making you feel like. You always do this at the exact moment it matters. Her eyes didn't leave her plate. I ask for something real, something that would actually make me feel like this life is worth living, and you find a reason. You always find a reason. I opened my mouth, closed it. If you can't do this one thing, she said, maybe you should just think about whether you're the right person for me. I want you to hear that sentence the way I heard it that night, not as a manipulation, not yet. I just heard it as the scariest thing a person can say to someone who has organized their entire adult life around not being abandoned. I said I would look at the budget. She nodded. She nodded, picked her fork back up, and just like that, it's due again. I found the money. Of course I found it. I moved things from savings, justified it to myself as a one-time thing, a peacekeeping measure. Alice was going through something. She needed this. I would figure out the rest. I called her from the car outside the Dior boutique. I'm going to pick it up, I said. Navy, right? The one you linked? The Navy. And then, briefly, just briefly, she sounded warm. Thank you, Ethan. I mean it. I almost believed her. I started the car. 30 minutes later, a silver SUV ran a red light at 40 miles per hour and hit me on the driver's side. The thing they don't show you in movies about car accidents is the sound. It isn't dramatic, it's percussive. A single enormous crack, like the world deciding it's done with something, and then glass moving through air, and then stillness. I was conscious. That surprised me. I remember looking down at my left leg, the angle of it, and understanding before the pain arrived that something was very wrong. My hip, too, when I tried to shift, my body sent back a signal I had never received before. Absolute prohibition. Don't. I found my phone under the passenger seat, dialed Alice. She picked up on the ring. I'm in an accident, I said. I think my leg is broken. They're calling an ambulance. There was a pause. Ethan. Her voice was controlled. Flat in the way something flat is when you're pressing down on it deliberately. Are you serious right now? What? Are you actually in an accident, or are you trying to get out of the store? I heard myself exhale, a sound I didn't make on purpose, something involuntary. Alice, I can see my own bone. Another pause, longer. I'll meet you at the hospital, she said. And that was it. No, oh my God. No, are you okay? No sharp intake of breath or tearful I'm coming, just the mechanical recalibration of a schedule. I want to tell you that in the chaos of the next hour, paramedics, triage, raise, that confirmed a fractured left femur and he didn't think about that pause, but I did. I kept thinking about it. I just didn't yet know what it meant. The moment that should have been love and wasn't Alice arrived at the hospital 2 hours after the call. Not right away. 2 hours. Hours. I know because I watched the clock on the wall above the emergency bay. One of those institutional clocks with these-can hand that doesn't quite sweep. It stutters, lurching forward in thesismal defeated intervals. And I counted the minutes because counting weighs easier than lying still. The nurse who was with me when Alice walked in, a woman named Rosa, 40s, kind in the way that people who have seen too much become kind, automatically and without drama. She was asking me to rate my pain on a scale of 1 toten. I said 6. Rosa made a small sound. Your leg says 8. Alice walked through the curtain. She was wearing a blouse I recognized from last spring, the one she saved for dinners. Her lipstick was on. She had taken the time to do her makeup before coming to the hospital. I noticed that the way you notice something strange about a photograph before you can name what's wrong with it. She looked at my leg. At the brace, they'd fitted around it, the swelling already pulling the skin tight. Then she looked at the equipment around the bed, the IV line, the blood pressure cuff, the clipboard someone had left on the chair. Surgery? She asked the room. Tomorrow morning, Rosa said. Orthopedic team will assess the hip tonight and confirm. The femur we're certain about. How long is recovery? With a fracture at this severity, 4 to 6 months minimum. Probably closer to 8 with the hip involvement. He'll need in-home care for the first few weeks at least. Alice's expression did not change. I was watching her face the entire time. I know her face. I have cataloged it over 5 years. The way her left eyebrow lifts slightly when she's skeptical. The way her mouth goes precise when she's containing something. What I saw in that hospital room was not grief, not fear, not the crumpling that happens to a face when something it loves is in danger. What I saw was calculation. Brief, quickly recovered. But there. Okay? She said. She sat down. She took my hand. The hand-holding was warm, but it felt administered, the way a professional administers comfort. We'll figure it out. Rosa looked at me. Just for a second. Then she looked away and busied herself with something on the clipboard. In the weeks I spent lying in our bedroom after surgery, I would return to that look from Rosa. I didn't know what to do with it then, but I filed it. I am a person who files things. I came home to our bedroom in a wheelchair. The stairs were an early negotiation with physics that I won only barely, and only because the visiting physical therapist gave Alice a full tutorial on how to help me up them. I noticed that during the tutorial, Alice was on her phone. She helped me up the stairs anyway. She was capable when required. Efficient. That is perhaps the most precise word for Alice in those early days. Efficient. She knew what the visiting nurse expected to see. She delivered it. Meals appeared at the right times. Medication was laid out correctly. She helped me into the bathroom with the practiced patience of someone who has decided the task is unpleasant but necessary, like paying a particularly irritating bill. She was never cruel, not in ways I could have pointed to. She was simply somewhere else, even when she was in the same room. You need anything else? She'd ask, standing in the doorway. I'm okay, thank you. Right, and she'd be gone. Down the stairs. The TV would come on, the sound of her life resuming. I told myself she was exhausted, adjusting, that caring for an injured spouse was not a small thing, and that she was handling it the best she could. I told myself a lot of things. I was good at it. The first 3 weeks, I focused on surviving the pain. Alice was present. I want to be honest about that. She was present. She brought breakfast. She refilled my water. She handed me my medications on schedule, the prescription anti-inflammatories, the blood pressure pill I'd been on for 2 years, supplements the doctor recommended for bone repair. She helped me to the bathroom and back with a kind of brisk, wordless competence that I mistook, at the time, for tenderness masked by exhaustion. I was grateful. I noticed things. I want to be clear that I noticed them. I just chose, every time, to interpret them charitably. Alice went out. Often, more than the situation called for, more than mid-obvious sense, given that I was immobile upstairs and she was ostensibly my caretaker. She came back, smelling of restaurants I didn't know she'd been to. She posted on her social media, dinners with unclear companions, tag locations at rooftop bars, a story from what appeared to be a high-end spa. The caption simply, I deserve this. When I asked about her day, she said she'd needed air. "You need your own life," she said once, sitting on the edge of the bed, in a way that made it clear she was about to stand up. "And I need mine. This doesn't have to be both of us suffering." "I know," I said, "I know. I'm glad you're getting out." And I was. That is the strange and honest part. I was glad, because I felt guilty. I felt the guilt of the bedridden, the weight of being a burden, the low-frequency shame that comes with needing things from someone you love. If she was getting out, she was coping. She was managing the situation the only way she knew how. That's what I told myself. She also said, once, when she thought I was asleep, "I didn't sign up for this." She was on the phone. I don't know who was on the other end. She said it the way people say things they've already thought many times. Without heat, without the quality of a feeling being expressed for the first time. Just a fact delivered into a phone at 11 p.m., standing in the hallway outside our bedroom door. I didn't sign up for this. I kept my breathing even. I kept my eyes closed. I filed it. My physical therapist was a man named Marcus, direct patient, the kind of person who looks at an x-ray and gives you the real number, not the comfortable one. 3 weeks in, he pulled up the imaging on his tablet and tilted it toward me. "The femur is tracking okay," he said. "The hip is lagging. I'd expect you to be a little further along by now. Is that unusual? Not alarming. But slower than average for your age, your health profile going in." He looked at me. "You sleeping? Eating right?" "I think so. Stress?" I almost laughed. "I'll try to do better," I said. He nodded. But he made a note. I watched the pen move. It was around this time that the water started tasting wrong, not dramatically, not suddenly, subtly enough that I dismissed it the first time. A kind of metallic undertone, bitter at the back of the throat. I thought, the medication, antibiotics can do things to your taste. Pain change show things register, it's nothing. The second time, I mentioned it to Alice. She was setting down the glass on the nightstand, about to turn. She paused. "What kind of wrong?" "Bitter. Metallic kind of. That's the anti-inflammatory. It can mess with your taste." She said it without hesitation, clear and confident. Dr. Harmon mentioned it might happen. I nodded. "Okay," I said, "that makes sense." She left. I heard her feet on the stairs. I looked at the glass. The water sat there, perfectly transparent. I drank it, week 5. The water tasted wrong again. Not a little wrong, more wrong. The bitterness had spread forward in my mouth, settled at the midpoint of the tongue where it sat heavy and insistent. I drank it because it was there, because I was thirsty, because I'd already explained it to myself and didn't want to revisit that explanation. Week 6. I started to notice something else. The water wasn't the only delivery system. It was the water Alice brought. There was a distinction that took me too long to make. When I managed to get to the kitchen myself, rare, exhausting, using the crutches the PT had cleared me for, and poured my own glass from the tap, it tasted fine. Neutral, like water. When Alice brought it upstairs, it tasted like that. I did not immediately think, she is putting something in it. I thought, this is a coincidence. This is a pattern that isn't actually there. This is a sick man's brain manufacturing meaning from noise. Because lying still all day gives you too much time to think, and not enough real information to think with. I am not, by nature, a paranoid person. I have always believed that most things shave a reasonable explanation, and that jumping to the most terrible conclusion is a habit of anxious people, not careful ones. I have always prided myself in being careful. So I didn't conclude anything. I just started paying attention. Week 7. Marcus came for a session and did the assessment he did every week. Range of motion, weight-bearing tolerance, a set of standardized measures. He checked his notes from the session 2 weeks prior. He looked at me for a long moment. "Ethan, I want to be straight with you. Go ahead, this is slower than it should be, not in a catastrophic way. I'm not worried about the repair itself. But you should be further along here. Guys your age with your baseline fitness, this type of fracture, they're usually on both crutches by now with minimal weight redistribution. You're still struggling with single crutch balance. Your energy output is low. What does a typical day look like? What are you eating?" I told him. He wrote things down. "Are you staying hydrated?" "Yes. Hydration looks off in how you're presenting. Your skin's a bit." He stopped, chose a different word. "Just make sure you're drinking enough." I said I would. That night, Alice brought the water before bed, set it on the nightstand. The bedside lamp lit it from below, and I stared at the glass for longer than I should have. She was still standing there. "You okay?" she asked. "Fine. Tired." "Okay." She didn't leave. "Alice, drink your water. You need to stay hydrated," Marcus said. Something about the sentence landed sideways. The way she'd incorporated what Marcus had said, as if she'd been listening, as if she already knew. She had been at the top of the stairs during the session. She could have heard. I drank the water. I lay in the dark afterward and listened to the sound of the television downstairs. The comfortable sounds of her life, the laugh track of some show she was watching. Outside, cars passing, the ice maker cycling in the kitchen. My tongue tasted like copper. Thought about Marcus's face when he reviewed the numbers. I thought about Alice standing in the doorway. I thought about how I had drunk the water. Anyway, I thought, what kind of man doesn't even trust his own instincts? And then, because I was not yet ready to follow that question to its full conclusion, I closed my eyes and went to sleep. The third time the water tasted wrong, my body made the decision before I did. It was a Wednesday afternoon, maybe 5 o'clock. Alice had gone out, a few errands, don't wait up, and the apartment had that particular quality of silence that an absent person leaves, which is different from regular silency way a just vacated room is different from a room no one's been in 4 days. She'd left the water on the nightstand as she always did before leaving. Glass. Tall, filled to the same level she always filled it. I picked it up. Drank. The bitterness hit so fast it activated the back of my throat before I could stop it. That reflexive tensing, the body's most basic security response. I turned my head and spit it back into the glass. I sat there with the glass in my hand. My heart was doing something unusual. There is a small potted plant on my nightstand. Alice gave it to me when I first got home from the hospital. Some kind of succulents she'd picked up on a whim. Something for the room, she'd said, so it doesn't feel like a Tom. I'd found that word choice strange at the time but had let it pass. I poured the water into the pot. Then nothing happened, obviously. You don't immediately notice the absence of something you didn't know was there. But I waited for the metallic taste to recede, and it did, slowly, replaced by just the dry ordinary mouth of a person who hadn't had water. I didn't refill the glass, I waited. The next 3 days I stopped drinking the water Alice brought. I waited until she left the room, then poured it into the plant. When she came back, the glass was empty. When she asked if I needed more, I said I was okay, I'd drink later. Day 1, unremarkable. Day 2, I slept, actually slept, deeply and without the foggy, sedated quality that had colored my sleep for weeks. I woke and felt, not well but different, like the difference between wearing wet clothes and wearing slightly less wet clothes. Day 3, Marcus came. He did the assessments. He stood back afterward and looked at me with what I can only describe as careful confusion. "What did you do differently?" he said. "What do you mean?" "Your mobility is measurably better than it was 4 days ago. Significantly. That doesn't usually happen this fast." I looked at him. "Maybe I slept better," I said. He wrote it down. He didn't look convinced. "Whatever you changed, keep doing it." I nodded. After he left, I lay in the quiet bedroom for a long time, looking at the plant on the nightstand. The succulent was still alive, had not been affected. Or maybe a small plant distributed whatever it was across a larger soil volume. Or maybe I was wrong about all of it. But Marcus's numbers were real. My sleep was real. The difference was real. And the water was the only thing I had changed. I sat with that knowledge for a very long time before I let myself name it. Because naming it meant naming her. And naming her meant the last 5 years of my life had been something it didn't yet have the vocabulary for. Alice left her bag in the bedroom. She did this sometimes. She had a system, a tote that served as her personal orbit, always within reach, always face down, or zipped or positioned with its, opening toward the wall. I had learned not to notice this because noticing it tended to produce the kind of question that produced the kind of silence that produced the kind of argument I didn't have the energy for. But this afternoon, she left it on the chair near my bed when she went downstairs to take a call. And when she came back up 20 minutes later to get it, I was asleep, or appeared to be. She rummaged through the bag. Something clinked softly, glass or plastic small moving against the inside of a smaller pocket. She zipped it up, took the bag, left. The sound had woken me, but I lay still. When she came back an hour later and asked if I wanted dinner, I said yes please. I waited until after dinner, until after she had gone to shower. I could hear the water running, the way I always could. The pipes in this building gold enough to broadcast. And then I got up, put the crutch under my arm, moved to the doorway, stood there, listening to make sure the shower was still running. Then I went to the chair. The bag was not there. She'd taken it downstairs. I stood in the hallway for a moment. The shower continued, so I went downstairs. I am not a person who goes through their spouse's belongings. I want to be clear about that, because I know how this reads, and I know the version of this story where I am the problem. But I was a man whose body had begun recovering the moment I stopped drinking the water she brought him. I was a man who could hear something small and glass-like shifting in a bag. I was a man who had been told, 3 weeks running, by a physical therapist with no reason to lie, that something biological was wrong. I opened the bag. In the inner zip pocket, there was a glass vial, no label. Sealed with a rubber stopper, the liquid inside was almost clear with a very faint amber tinge, less than half full. I took out my phone, photographed it from 3 angles without removing it from the bag. Then I searched the cap imprint. It took me to a pharmaceutical registry. Searching the compound identifier, 2 letters, 4 digits, embossed on the cap, took me somewhere that made my hands stop. The compound was a heavy metal chelation agent's synthetic analog, used in some medical applications in controlled doses, capable in repeated uncontrolled doses of suppressing calcium absorption, degrading nerve conduction, producing chronic fatigue, impeding musculoskeletal repair, and in sustaining accumulation, liver damage, cardiac involvement, organ failure. Administered slowly, over weeks, it would look like poor recovery. It would look like complications. I looked at the word on the screen for a long time. I could hear the shower still running upstairs. I put the vial back exactly as I had found it, zipped the pocket, put the bag back in the spot where I'd found it. Then I sat down on the kitchen stool because my leg was shaking, and if it didn't sit, I was going to fall. The woman upstairs, taking a shower, had been poisoning me. Not once, not in a moment of rage. Methodically, the way you manage a problem, the way you wind something down. I sat on that stool for 6 minutes. The shower stopped. I put my face into a neutral expression that cost me everything I had, picked up my crutch and went back upstairs. I made some tea, I said, from the doorway of the bedroom. Oh, thanks, but I'm okay. Sure, I said. Sleep well. I went into the bathroom and locked the door and sat on the edge of the tub with my hand over my mouth for a very long time. After that night, I became a different kind of person. Not a better person, necessarily. Not a braver one. Just a person who had been given a fact they could not unreceive, and who now had to decide what to do with it. The first decision was, do not show her what you know. I am not strategic by nature. I have spent most of my life being deliberate and careful in the way that is different from strategic. I think before I act. I wait before I conclude. But I am not a person who makes plans designed to trap other people. But I had a vial of poison in my wife's bag, and a body that was getting healthier because I had stopped drinking what she gave me. And the most dangerous thing I could do was let her know I knew. So I performed the role. I let myself look tired. Marcus asked about the improvement he'd noted. I said I might have overstated it, that I'd had a rough couple of nights since. He accepted that. Wrote something down. I was performing being worse, to stay safe. That was what my life had become, 10 days after the vial. Alice went to her weekly appointment. I'd never been entirely sure what that appointment was. She called it variously my thing, and the thing on Wednesdays, and I had learned not to probe, and I used the time. I moved slowly. My hip-up was genuinely still bad, but I moved with a sense of purpose that recovery had not yet produced. The home office. Her side of it, I had always respected the boundary around her desk the way I respected all her boundaries. Absolutely. She kept her laptop password protected. She kept a physical file cabinet locked. None of this had ever seemed suspicious to me because I had not been a person looking for suspicious things. The cabinet was locked. I didn't have the key, but the laptop was on sleep, not fully shut down, and the browser had left a tab visible when I opened it. She'd forgotten to close the window, not the tab. The visible page was an insurance company portal. I sat down. It was our life insurance policy. Alice was listed as sole beneficiary. The policy amount was listed clearly. I stared at the number for long enough to fully absorb it. Then I found the search history in the browser. She hadn't cleared it. I read it carefully. Life insurance payout after accidental injury complications. How long after accident before life insurance pays out natural causes, life insurance, validity spouse injury? What counts as natural causes after trauma timeline? Before life insurance disputes, claim these searches were spread across 6 weeks. The oldest one was from 11 days after I came home from the hospital, 11 days. She had started this research before the cast had even set. I kept scrolling. Near the bottom of the history, a different kind of search. Getting impatient. Options when things aren't moving fast enough. That one wasn't a policy question. That one was something else. I photographed everything I could from the screen. I opened the printer attached to her desk and printed the history, quietly, page by page, tucking each sheet under my shirt as they came out. Then I found the folder. She had created a folder on her desktop labeled with what appeared to be Arasipe file name, the kind of innocuous naming that does not invite curiosity. Inside it were notes, a document, dates, actions, what she'd observed, what she'd adjusted. She had been keeping a log. The earliest entry was dated the first week I came home from surgery. I read the last entry. 3 words in quotation marks at the bottom, getting too slow. I sat very still, then I photographed it all. Every document, every page. I cleared the browser history, all of it, going back further than she had gone, far enough that she would think she had cleared it herself and forgotten. I put the printed pages in the inner pocket of my old laptop bag, which was buried in the closet behind winter coats. Then I went back to bed. She came home an hour later, called out that she'd picked up groceries, asked if I wanted soup. "Please," I said. I listened to her moving around the kitchen. I lay on my back and stared at the ceiling. My hand was on my chest. My heartbeat was very steady. I was 33 years old and my wife had a folder on her laptop tracking how slowly I was dying, and she wanted to know if I wanted soup. I contacted a lawyer through my coworker Derek. I called Derek from the bathroom with the shower running. I told him I needed a referral and that I needed it to not go through any phone or account linked to the apartment. He's not an expressive man. He heard the situation in my voice without me saying it and said, "Okay," in the tone of a person who knows that okay is the only useful thing to say. He texted the number to my work phone, which had been sitting untouched in my desk drawer since the accident. I powered it on. The lawyer's name was Patricia Hale. I called her from the bathroom, shower running, sitting on the tub again. 'Cause that was apparently where I made the most important decisions of my life now. She heard me out. She did not express excessive sympathy. She was methodical and precise, in the way that competent people are when they are actually trying to help you, rather than trying to be nice to you. When I finished, she said, "You have circumstantial evidence. The photographs of the vial are useful, but not conclusive without lab confirmation of the substance. The printed search history is better. The folder documentation is potentially significant. What you do not yet have is direct linkage or corroboration from a second source." What would a second source look like? Another party who is aware of the plan. Physical evidence tested and confirmed by a toxicologist, or a direct statement from her, recorded in a jurisdiction where one-party consent applies, which yours does. I sat with that. If I confront her without the chain complete, I said, what happens? She denies. She disposes of remaining evidence. She has time to build a counter-narrative. Grieving wife, unstable injured husband, paranoia from pain medication. She has already built the public-facing version of that narrative, from what you're describing. Abai. So I keep waiting. I know that's hard. She could increase what she's giving me. She could. Which is why what you do in the meantime is just as important as what you collect. A pause. Do you have a safe place to store everything? Yes. Do not drink anything she prepares without being certain of its source. I know. Good. Keep the log. Note dates, times, symptoms, any deviations. And if anything changes fast, if you feel in immediate danger, you call 911 first and me second. Understood? Understood. I went back to bed. Alice was on her phone downstairs. I could hear the low register of her voice, but not the words. 12 days later, she left her phone on the bathroom counter while she showered, face up. It was unlocked. She'd been in the middle of a conversation. I will not describe what I told myself as I crossed the room and picked it up. I will just say that I was past the point where I needed to justify looking. The name on the top of the thread was Nicholas. I read the last several screens of messages. Nicholas. How much longer do you think? Alice. I don't know. It's taking too long. Nicholas, you need to move this. We've been patient. Alice. He's still here. You think that's easy for me? Nicholas. I know. This is almost over. Then we have the money, and we have a real start. Alice. God, I just want to be done with this. Nicholas. You will be. He's dead weight, Alice. You've been carrying him long enough. Dead weight. I read that phrase and felt something in my chest do a quiet final thing, like a door closing in a room that has been emptying for a long time. There was an earlier message from 2 weeks prior, Alice. It's like managing a body that hasn't realized it's supposed to be gone yet. I put the phone back exactly as I'd found it, face up, same screen. I walked very carefully back to the bedroom and sat down on the edge of the bed. My leg ached. My hands were entirely still. I thought about the night she brought me soup. and how I had said thank you, and how she had said of course, and how I had believed, briefly warmly, the way you believe something when you need to, that maybe I was wrong about all of it. She paused. She recalculated. She continued. It wasn't a beginning. There was no beginning. This was a person who had decided what I was worth to her, and when the calculation changed, she had simply updated the plan. I was not her husband. I was a problem she was managing. A body that hadn't realized it was supposed to be gone yet. I called Patricia the next day. I told her about the messages. Can you access them again? I don't know. She keeps her phone closer now. Okay, we're close. I need one more thing. What? I need her to say it to you directly, or to take a visible action in your presence that escalates beyond what we can explain away. Something undeniable. If you can get that, recorded, or witnessed, we have a complete chain. Okay, I said. Ethan, are you safe right now? I thought about the glass of water on my nightstand, the way she always watched me drink it. I will be, I said. It happened on a Thursday morning. I know it was Thursday because the recycling truck came at 7 a.m., and I heard it from the bedroom, the mechanical compression of it, which I had come to use as a kind of clock. I had been awake since 5:30. I had not been sleeping well because when you know what you know and you are still living inside it, sleep becomes its own act of performance. Alice came in with the water at 8 a.m. She set it on the nightstand in the way she always did. Deliberate, positioned exactly at the corner of the coaster, the glass full. Then she stood back. She did not sit. She did not leave. You need to drink more, she said. Marcus said hydration. I'll get to it, Ethan. Her voice was different, tighter. Drink the water. I will now. I looked at her. She was looking at the glass. Something had changed in Alice in the last week. I had been watching it the way you watch weather, looking for the edges of it, trying to understand its speed. She was moving differently. Not visibly agitated, but compressed, the way high pressure compresses air. Nicholas's message had said it. Move this. She was hearing it. She was starting to hear it louder than she could manage. Alice, I said, sit down. I don't need to sit down. I just need you to. Sit down, she sat. Not because I said so. Alice doesn't work that way. But because something in my voice must have registered. Something different from the voices she had been managing for the last 2 months. I reached under the mattress. My hands were steady. I had the vial, photographed, handled with gloves, sealed in a small evidence bag I'd gotten at the pharmacy. I had the printed documents from the laptop. I had the voice recorder app running on my phone, the phone lying on nightstand at an angle, face up, which she had dismissed as my habit of keeping it within reach. I placed the evidence bag on the blanket between us. She looked at it. Her face did something I had not seen before, a rapid cycling, too fast to fully read, ending in a blankness that was its own kind of tell. I found this in your bag, I said. I looked it up. Silence. I also found the folder on your computer. The logs. The insurance policy. The searches. She said nothing. Alice. I kept my voice level. This took everything I had. Tell me what you've been doing. For about 4 seconds. Nothing. Then, I don't know what you think that is. I know what it is. The compound ID is right there on the cap. I looked it up. I know what it does over 6 weeks of repeated exposure. I know what it was supposed to do to me. Her hands were in her lap. She looked at them. This is insane. Quiet. Controlled. You've been on medication and you're not sleeping and you've built this hole. The plant is still alive, I said. She stopped. I poured it into the plant. I've been pouring it into the plant for 3 weeks, and I have been getting better every day that I didn't drink it. I paused. Marcus noticed. He wrote it down. A long silence. Ethan. Different tone now, not the wife-managing husband voice. Something underneath it. Stripped down. You don't understand the position I've been in. You have no idea. Tell me. You want me to tell you? And something cracked open in her voice. No remorse, not grief, something rawer and more frightening than either. I have been trapped in this life for 2 years. You know that. You've known it. But you kept going, kept expecting me to wait, kept treating me like the staying was enough. I am 31 years old. I can't do this. So leave, I said. Just leave. And go where? With what? You know what the divorce settlement looks like. You know I haven't worked in 2 years. I'd get nothing, Ethan. The prenup. So this was easier. She looked at me and I fully, completely, without any possibility of charitable interpretation, that the calculation she had made was not driven by rage or grief or even hatred. It was a rational calculation, a resource allocation. If you had just, she started. If I had just what? The silence stretched. If I had died, I said. Say it. Nothing. If I had died, you'd have the policy payout and Nicholas and a clean start. Alice stood up. Her face had closed again. This is a conversation for when you're not in this state, she said. You're clearly. Say it. My voice did not rise. Just say it once. She looked at me for a moment, really looked. The way people look when they've been caught and know it and are calculating whether there's still a way through. And then quietly, with the precision of someone who has said things in their head so many times that speaking them aloud feels like a release. If you had died, at least I could have done something with the money. At least that would have meant something. The room was very quiet. She seemed to realize immediately, not because she felt it was wrong, but because she had said it out loud, and the recorder was on the nightstand, and she had seen it there the whole time, and only now understood what it meant. She lunged. She went for the phone first. I had anticipated this. I pulled it toward me, tucked it under my arm, and she was above me, and I was in the bed, and the physical imbalance was real. My leg, my hip, the months of reduction. But I held on. She grabbed the evidence bag next. Got it. Turned toward the door. I called 9. I need police and an ambulance at. I gave the address. My wife has attacked me and I need to report an ongoing poisoning. I have documentation. Please send someone now. Alice stopped in the doorway. She turned around. I had never seen her face look like that. Not frightened exactly. Something more precise than frightened. The face of someone realizing that the narrative I'd been building, the exhausted wife, the paranoid invalid, the defecalthum situation, had just been replaced by a recording. Ethan, don't, I said. Just, please don't. I could hear the dispatcher on the phone, asking me to stay on the line. Alice left the room. I heard her on the stairs. I heard the front door. I heard a car. I lay back against the pillow and held my phone and listened to the dispatcher's voice and looked at the ceiling. The morning light was coming through the blinds at an angle I'd stared at for 2 months, and the plant on the nightstand had new growth on it. A small green tip extending from the soil, reaching up, the way plants do when the conditions finally allow it. I stayed on the line until I heard the sirens. I'll give you the facts first, because the facts are the easier part. Alice was arrested that afternoon at Nicholas's apartment. He was brought in for questioning. The compound in the vial was confirmed by a toxicology lab within 72 hours. The documentation, the folder, the insurance search history, the timeline log, was recovered from her cloud backup, which she had not thought to delete because she had been too focused on the physical evidence. The recording was admissible. Patricia was professional and precise about all of it. She had been right about everything she'd said, in the right order, for the right reasons. There was a preliminary hearing. There would be a trial. Nicholas cooperated in exchange for consideration and confirmed the plan had been his idea originally, that he had told Alice the policy was an option, that he had told her the accumulation method was untraceable if done over enough time, that he had told her this was almost over because he believed it was. He was wrong about the untraceable part, they often are. The life insurance policy was flagged. The prenuptial agreement, ironically, weighs the reason Alice had needed another plan in the first place. She had known a divorce wouldn't give her what she wanted, and so she had chosen the alternative in the way that people who have stopped thinking of other people as people tend to do, with calm, pragmatic efficiency, like pruning something that has outgrown its usefulness. My leg healed. It took longer than it should have, not because of the fracture itself, but because of the months of suppression. Marcus said, when I finally told him what had happened, that the recovery trajectory once I stopped being exposed was consistent with what he would have expected much earlier. He sat with that for a moment. Then he said, I knew something was wrong, I just didn't know what kind of wrong. I told him he hadn't done anything wrong. He hadn't. None of us are equipped to look at the person bringing water to a sick man and think, that. Here is the part that is harder to explain. People want the emotional story to be about the poison. They want the horror to be the vial, the compound, the searches, the timeline with its terrible shorthand. And those things are horrifying. I don't minimize them, but the horror I live with, the one that doesn't go away when the case closes, when the legal process grinds forward, when the physical recovery completes, is not any of those things. It's a Tuesday in the 3rd week of my recovery. Alice brings soup, sets it on the tray, adjusts the angle of the spoon, asks if I need anything else. I say thank you, she says of course. She closes the door behind her, and in that moment she is, to any person who might have been watching, a wife caring for her husband. A woman under stress, doing the necessary things. A person worthy of sympathy. The horror is not that she poisoned me. The horror is that she did it in the vocabulary of love, that she used every gesture that means, I care for you as the container for the opposite. That I lay in that room for 2 months receiving what I interpreted as imperfect, strained, but real care. And she was standing at the door thinking, not fast enough. I am not going to tell you. I've processed all of it. I haven't. I'm not sure that's how this works. I'm not sure there is a fully processed version of discovering that the person you built your adult life around had quietly decided your death was a reasonable option. What I can tell you is this. I sat in the bedroom, alone for the first time in months, the day after she was arrested. The morning light came through the window. The one she had brought me, the one she had called, so the room doesn't feel like a tomb, had 3 new green shoots on it. It had grown, in the soil where I had poured what she gave me. I looked at it for a long time, and then I thought, with a clarity that felt like the first clear thing in a long time, I survived not because I was strong enough, or clever enough, or because I had been anything other than what I had always been. Cautious, patient, a person who waits too long to call something by its real name. I survived because I finally trusted what my body was trying to tell me. Because I stopped trying to make her behavior make sense in a framework where she still loved me. Because I finally stopped asking the right questions to the wrong person. There is a line I keep returning to. I don't know if I thought it or read it somewhere, or if it arrived complete from the part of me that had understood this before the rest of me caught up. A person doesn't begin to destroy you the day they raise their hand. They begin the day they stop seeing you as a person who deserves to live. Everything after that is just logistics. The plant has 4 new shoots now. I'm keeping it.